They claimed humans were only fit for games. Then she brought down an empire. The alien academy rose beneath the twin. Its towers gleamed like crystal, lances piercing the golden sky. Students from 100 species drifted, crawled or glided through vast halls, their colors and forms a living mural of the galaxy's chosen elite. In the center of it all walked Mira, the single human ever allowed into the academy. She hauled her data pads in a worn leather backpack, scarred and patched, a keepsake from Earth that looked almost absurd among the floating cases and shining satchels of her peers. They often laughed at her, not with cruelty at first, but in the condescending tones of beings who thought they were indulging a strange little experiment. Humans were made to chase bulls on grass. One insectoid had once chittered as Mira passed. Others snickered and waved tendrils, tossing Earth slang like toys, unaware she caught every insult. Mira stayed quiet, studied long after others had drifted to their rest cycles. She trained in worn simulator pods that overheated under her grip. She failed exam after exam. Combat tests ended with her avatars crushed. Strategy reports returned marked with alien glyphs meaning foolish or basic. Still she endured. The academy was no mere school. It was a corridor to power. Empires sent their brightest youth here to master war, rule, and science. Graduate meant inheriting fleets and shaping tomorrow. Mira's entry had been hailed as an experiment, a symbol of inclusion, a sign of generosity from alien rulers toward primitive Earth. But she saw through it. It wasn't kindness. It was arrogance. They thought flaunting their brilliance before a lone human would prove their superiority. That illusion shattered the day enemies of the Empire attacked. Sirens screamed through the academy's towers. Sky-splitting beams tore across the air as warships descended, black as blades and sharp as knives. The academy became a battlefield within minutes. Elite students scrambled into formations, but their drills crumbled against real fire. Mira watched hulls collapse, plasma blasts ripping through classrooms. She could have hidden as many did, but something rose in her chest when she saw classmates crying for mentors who had already fled. She sprinted to the library's forbidden archives, a place she was never meant to enter. For months she had stolen glimpses of its shelves, memorizing fragments of alien strategy, hunting for overlooked flaws. With explosions shaking the academy, she smashed open panels with her fists, ripped apart circuits, and wired her battered tablet into the grid. The system mocked her attempt. The alien AI sneered at her crude code. But Mira had trained for this since her first failure. She had learned alien logic not by copying it but by twisting it. Where they adored brute force, she saw waste. Where they worshipped rigid rituals, she saw weakness. Her human mind, honed by ages of survival through plagues, winters, and wars with stone weapons, turned alien brilliance into predictable habits. She fed new commands into defense drones, forcing chaotic scatter moves. Rewrote beacon signals, making enemy ships target their own. As explosions roared, Mira stood in the shattered library, fingers racing across her cracked tablet. Alien students stared in shock as the tide turned. Defense grids, long thought impenetrable, ripped through invading fleets. The Empire's champions, trained in endless theory, faltered before the chaos Mira unleashed. She's improvising, a reptilian cadet, gasped, scales rattling. That isn't permitted. That shouldn't work. Mira ignored them, her eyes locked as she drew patterns from the storm, weaving what no alien doctrine dared. When the skies cleared, the academy still stood scarred but standing. Students and teachers crawled from rubble, staring at Mira as if she had become something fearsome. She hadn't just saved a school. She had broken the spine of their strategies, turning their supremacy into whispers spread like fire. Some said, "They cheated." Others called her lucky. The most dangerous murmurs came from those who saw the truth. One human had found the cracks in their empire. She was both myth and threat. Months later, graduation returned in a hall rebuilt from ruins. Mira walked the stage with the same worn backpack, accepting a diploma carved in glowing glyph. Yet none knew she had copied every archive she had touched. Her old tablet now carried centuries of alien secrets. As applause thundered, Mira's eyes swept the rows of alien rulers who had gathered to witness. She smiled, small, steady smile, knowing smile because she sensed what they had not yet realized. Saving the academy was only the first step. She had uncovered their weak spots, their brittle ego, their dependence on systems that shattered when struck from the side. Had traced them all. And soon, when the time arrived, she would not just be the human who survived their exams. She would become the one who erased their empire. The council chamber was a dome of crystal and light, designed to inspire awe in any species who entered. Yet standing in its center, Mira felt none of that staged reverence. Alien envoys murmured in layered voices, tendrils curling eyes, blinking in strange rhythms, all fixed on her, the human graduate who had shamed an empire by surviving. She had been called forth as both hero and suspect, asked to explain how she had bent their defenses against the invading fleet. They wrapped their demands in ritual courtesy, but Mira's replies were sharp, blunt, and unyielding. You relied on repetition. Relied on improvisation. Your doctrine is age. I stepped outside. The chamber echoed with scandal, rippling like storm winds across its walls. The dignitaries did not admit it aloud, but she had confirmed their hidden fear. Their supremacy could be broken. Weeks later, Mira stood not in a class, but inside a war council simulation. Invited, or perhaps lured, to prove herself again. Alien cadets circled with smug certainty, each commanding fleets of shimmering holographic ships. Test was built to show her earlier triumph had been luck. Yet Mira's hands moved over her battered earth tablet, its cracked screen glowing beneath her steady gaze. She disrupted their supply chains not with force but by slicing a single overlooked relay, one node whose failure triggered collapse across their entire grid. Alien classmates cried out in rage as their flawless maneuvers dissolved into chaos. You cannot do that, barked a scaled instructor, claws scraping the platform. Mira tilted her head. Why not? Do you imagine real enemies will honor your rules? The silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Her reputation spread like fire, but so did resentment. Some students avoided her as if her presence carried dangerous contagion. Others confronted her in corridors, spitting that humans were scavengers, parasites, breakers of order. Mira bore it quietly, but she felt the weight of their eyes. They wanted to believe her victories were chance. They wanted her. Then came the second assault. This time, not raiders, but a splinter of the empire itself, those who called the academy a decadent waste and aimed to overthrow its rule. They arrived in sleek warships, marked with crimson sigils, dropping troops in endless waves. Explosions tore through towers. Fire spread across courtyards. Students once more screamed for leaders who did not come. For this time Mira was prepared. She raced not to the archives but to the armory where abandoned prototypes gathered dust. Weapons half-tested, drones rejected for clumsy design, combat suits too unstable for refined species to risk. Mira pulled one on without pause. The alien armor was oversized and heavy, but her Earth-born instinct adapted swiftly. She rewired drones with blunt commands, stripping away ceremonial layers until they obeyed with raw efficiency. Alien cadets stared as she led the counterattack, weaving through falling halls, directing fire with improvised signals. "Why follow her?" one shouted. "She isn't even one of us." When Mira's hacked drones cut down foes with ruthless precision, the same cadet fell in beside her. The fight raged through the night cycle until the Crimson Sigil forces withdrew, leaving the campus smoldering under the twin sun's dawn. The academy was scarred, but still it stood, and once again Mira had turned the tide. That day marked a whispers no longer dismissed her. Now they debated her. Some said she was dangerous, others said brilliant. Younger cadets even admired her openly. Instructors muttered about instability, about the human style of battle being too chaotic, too unstable. But Mira knew otherwise. Chaos was survival. Humanity had always endured in the cracks between order and ruin. Their rigid hierarchies, she saw the same blindness that had ended countless Earth empires. She recognized patterns doomed to repeat, and she began to wonder if she had ever come here to learn at all. Perhaps she had come to dismantle it. She did not act openly. She kept studying, kept training, endured the whispers and glares. At night she scoured her stolen archives, charting the Empire's whole design, its fleets, its supply lines, its alliances. Every alien doctrine was a lattice, interwoven and fragile. All it required was the right pressure, a single push to bring the lattice crashing down. So when a delegation from the Central Empire arrived months later, Mira stood among the rows of cadets, their salutes sharp with ritual grace, gestures she refused to echo. The dignitaries did not see a student. They saw the spark of rebellion they had accidentally lit. One elder leaned close to another and hissed, "We should never have let her remain." Mira heard the words. She smiled faintly, knowing it was already too late. Humanity had been underestimated countless times before, and each time the end had been the same. She had no armies, no fleets, no weapons beyond her mind and her battered tablet. But she carried something far more dangerous than they realized: perspective. The academy was meant to mold her into a token of alien superiority. Instead, it had given her the tools to unravel the empire itself. She needed only to wait for the right moment, and when it came, she would not falter. The empire had grown complacent. Fleets stretched across the stars like a gilded net. Its academies drilled students in the same rehearsed maneuvers. Its governors recited speeches written centuries ago. To them, order was perfection. To Mira, order was weakness. She waited in silence as months became years, studying, blending in, wearing the mask of an obedient graduate. She sat in councils where alien dignitaries argued endlessly over ritual forms while unrest spread through the outer worlds. Listened, she observed every flaw found its way into her cracked tablet, now stuffed with archives, codes and notes in Earth's plain script. To the aliens it was a relic of a primitive world. Truth, it was her weapon. The chance came sooner than she imagined. A crisis erupted in the outer sectors. Rebellions among conquered colonies. Pirate fleets gathering rival powers. Probing the borders. The Central Empire, arrogant and stretched thin, called for new leaders from its academies. Mira was given command of a token observation unit, meant as a gesture of inclusion but in truth, a way to bury her far from the capital. They did not grasp that obscurity was exactly what she needed. On the frontier she saw what the councils ignored. Citizens were exhausted, fearful, crushed by endless taxes and rigid hierarchies. The fleets, vast but stiff, moved predictably. Governors clung to ceremonies rather than solutions. Mira walked among the colonies as an outsider, free of old grudges. People spoke to her, whispered anger, revealed secrets, listened, recording everything. Then that she did not need to defeat the Empire fleet by fleet. She only had to show the galaxy it could fall. The chance arrived when she was ordered to crush a rebellion on a mining moon. Alien commanders demanded bombardment, a display of terror to frighten others into obedience. Mira urged another path. Strike them and you prove yourselves. Tyrants, let me speak and I will prove you are weak. They laughed and dismissed. So she acted without leave. Walked into the rebel camp alone, armed only with her backpack. She spoke the truth. The Empire was brittle, bound by arrogance, and she could show them how to break it. She revealed patrol flaws, relay gaps, weaknesses hidden in plain. She offered not conquest but freedom. The rebels believed her. Word spread. Colony after colony began to see the human not as the Empire's tool but as its undoing. Mira did not gather armies in the traditional sense. She spread ideas, taught rebels to fight not with rigid formations but with human instincts, unpredictable, adaptive, relentless. Sabotage replaced formal battles. False signals ran through the Empire's rigid systems, sowing chaos. Fleets dispatched to crush uprisings struck empty voids, while their supply chains collapsed. Behind it all, Mira directed the storm, her cracked tablet burning like a lantern. In the dark, the council branded her traitor. They sent assassins, fleets, even entire classes of cadets trained to hunt her down. Time she slipped away, twisting their own systems into traps. At last, the Empire made one final move. They summoned their greatest champion, a warrior bred from birth to embody their doctrine, to challenge Mira in a duel, broadcast across the stars. They expected a spectacle of strength. Mira offered none. She stood calmly, unarmed, and spoke into the galaxy's feeds. You built an empire on the belief you could not be defeated. I'm human. My people survived because we never believed in the impossible. We believed in trying again, in learning, in adapting. That is why I stand here and why your empire will end. While the galaxy watched, her allies triggered the plan years in the making. Relays collapsed. Supply lines shattered. Worlds long ignored erupted in rebellion. Coordinated with the data she had seeded, the Empire's fleets, vast but rigid, were left blind, trapped in predictable loops. In mere days, what had stood for millennia crumbled. The Empire dissolved not in a final blaze, but in a storm of confusion. Mira stood at the heart of it, not as a conqueror, but as the one who revealed that the greatest empire could be undone by a single mind unwilling to yield. When the chaos faded, she returned to Earth. She stepped once more onto the soil of her home, carrying only her backpack and her cracked tablet. No longer a student mocked by her peers, no longer an outsider. She had graduated in the truest sense, not in their doctrine, but in survival, creativity, and resilience. And in that quiet homecoming, she knew she had proven something greater than war. Humanity, ignored and underestimated, had earned its place among the stars, a place no empire could erase. The galaxy remembered her not as the human who failed tests nor as the odd girl in an alien school. They remembered her as the one who erased an empire with nothing but knowledge, resolve, and the unyielding refusal to surrender. That was how Mira, the girl with a broken tablet and a battered backpack, graduated from an academy built to humble her and made her species unforgettable.